Hey guys, welcome. I'm not even sure where to begin with this aggravation that I feel right now. But yeah, if you don't know what's going on, they overturned Roe v. Wade. And they're just so happy about it. And they're just so excited about it. Did people forget why we had Roe v. Wade in the first place? I think all of these pro-lifers that live in their perfect life with all their money and their perfect husbands and their mom and their dad and their grandparents that are still together and just this hunky-dory perfect life where you have two parents and a white picket fence and everything is just hunky-dory. And you're never on state help and you are just absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. That's who these people are talking about. They're not thinking or remembering why Roe v. Wade happened in the first place. And with all of these school shootings and all of these fucked up individuals in the world, now you just made more being born. But now, on top of it, who's paying for all these babies? Who the fuck is paying for all of these kids that they want to have? Think about how many abortions are done daily. Now these babies are going to be born. These babies are going to be born to unwanted families. These babies are going to be left in garbages. These babies are going to be left to die. These babies are going to be murdered. These babies are not going to go, oh, let me have a baby and put up for adoption. You know, I understand there's a family out there that would like to adopt my child, so let's go about this the right way. That's not going to happen. You're going to see babies found in garbage cans. You're going to see babies being buried. You're going to see more of Skylar Richardson type people. This is what's going to happen. Yeah, they don't care after they're born. Exactly. So I want to know who's taking care of all those kids. I want to know, a lot of them, like, I always said that if I was going to have an abortion, I mean, it's too late now, but if Sage got pregnant very young or something like that, I'd drive to New York. I'd drive to California. I'd go somewhere that it is where abortion is legal. No child should be born into the world not wanted. Plain and simple. It's sick. It gets me mad. It really does. It gets me mad. It gets me upset. Because this is not right. This is not a good thing. This is not, and again, who's paying for this? Like, who is paying for these kids? That now, you know, let's say 1 million extra kids are going to be born. Who the fuck is paying for them? Who is paying for these kids to live in the world that we live in right now? I can't afford it. Most people can't afford it. Dogs bringing home a deceased newborn. I saw that story. That's gonna happen. There's nothing gray about it, Jay, though. That's the problem. There's really nothing gray about it. It's wrong on every level. Whether you believe in abortion or not, it's a personal choice. It should not be up to the state. Exactly. We can't afford them now. Thank you, Carrie. I mean, I'm not lying. I've been tossing around the last couple of days of doing a PayPal for Dayton because every other day this kid needs more and more money. And before you know it, I'm $800 in the hole for him in a week. Like, and I've tossed it. But what in the fuck? This is crazy. Like these people that are baby makers that just keep popping out kids. But abracadabra, that's your choice. Abortion is murder to you. Abortion is a lifesaver to others. So it's all a matter of how you look at it. But if you believe it's murder, then you don't do it. I believe that guns kill people. All right, I'm just giving an example. I believe guns kill people. So guess what? I don't own a gun. You got that? So again, if I don't agree with something, then I don't do it. But don't go ahead and dictate what your beliefs are and make them put on somebody else that may not want a child. Because then it's not murder. It's a personal choice. And I can speak for all pro-choice people when I say this, and I do mean I could speak for all of us. We're not telling you that abortion is murder or it's not murder. We deserve the freedom to make our choice because it's our bodies. It's our money. We have to pay for that child, not the men. Now the government, so haha. Carrie, excellent. Excellent. Why are you worried about an unborn baby when there's thousands, tens of thousands? Why don't they protect the kids that are out now? Oh, absolutely, Jessica. It also affects IVF. How? The baby doesn't get a choice until they take their first breath. If a baby cannot live without me as a host, then it's not a baby yet. It's just not a baby yet. That's my belief. That's my choice. I created this baby. It's my motherfucking choice. Plain and simple.
Today is it's not hyperbole to suggest a very solemn moment.
They can't do better on the fucking sound?
The Supreme Court of the United States expressly took away a constitutional right from the American people that it had already recognized. They didn't limit it, they simply took it away. That's never been done to a right so important to so many Americans.
Are they kidding me on the volume?
It's a sad day for the court and for the country. 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade was decided and has been the law of the land since then. This landmark case protected a woman's right to choose, her right to make intensely personal decisions with her doctor, free from the interference of politics. It reaffirmed basic principles of equality, that women have the power to control their own destiny, and it reinforced a fundamental right of privacy, a right of each of us to choose how to live our lives. Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk. As chairman and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as Vice President and now as President of the United States, I've studied this case carefully. I've overseen more Supreme Court confirmations than anyone today, where this case was always discussed. I've overseen more Supreme Court confirmations than anyone today, where this case was always discussed. I believe Roe v. Wade was the correct decision as a matter of constitutional law and application of the fundamental right to privacy and liberty in matters of family and personal autonomy. It was a decision on a complex matter that drew a careful balance between a woman's right to choose earlier in her pregnancy and the state's ability to regulate later in her pregnancy. A decision with broad national consensus that most Americans of faith and backgrounds found acceptable, that have been the law of the land for most of the lifetime of Americans today. And it was a constitutional principle upheld by justices appointed by Democrat and Republican presidents alike. Roe v. Wade was a 7-2 decision, written by a justice appointed by a Republican president, Richard Nixon. In the 5 decades that followed Roe v. Wade, justices appointed by Republican presidents from Eisenhower, Nixon, and Reagan, George W. Bush, were among the justices who voted to uphold the principles set forth in Roe v. Wade. It was 3 justices named by one president, Donald Trump, who were the core of today's decision to upend the scales of justice and eliminate a fundamental right for women in this country. Make no mistake, this decision is a culmination of a deliberate effort over decades to upset the balance of our law. It's a realization of an extreme ideology and a tragic error by the Supreme Court, in my view. The court has done what it has never done before, expressly take away a constitutional right that is so fundamental to so many Americans that had already been recognized. The court's decision to do so will have real and immediate consequences. State laws banning abortion are automatically taking effect today, jeopardizing the health of millions of women, some without exceptions. So extreme that women could be punished for protecting their health. So extreme that women and girls are forced to bear their rapist's child. With the child, a consequence. It just stuns me. So extreme that doctors will be criminalized for fulfilling their duty to care. Imagine having a young woman have to carry the child of incest as a consequence of incest. No option. Too often the case, the poor women are going to be hit the hardest. It's cruel. In fact, the court laid out state laws criminalizing abortion that go back to the 1800s as rationale. The court literally taking America back 150 years. This is a sad day for the country, in my view. But it doesn't mean the fight's over. Let me be very clear and unambiguous. The only way we can secure a woman's right to choose, the balance that existed, is for Congress to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade as federal law. No executive action from the president can do that. And if Congress, as it appears, lacks the votes to do that now, voters need to make their voices heard. This fall, we must elect more senators and representatives who will codify women's right to choose into federal law once again. Elect more state leaders to protect this right at the local level. We need to restore the protections of Roe as law of the land. We need to elect officials who will do that. This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Personal freedoms are on the ballot. The right to privacy, liberty, equality, they're all on the ballot. Until then, I will do all of my power to protect a woman's right in states where they will face the consequences of today's decision. While the court's decision cast a dark shadow over a large swath of the land, many states in this country still recognize a woman's right to choose. So, if a woman lives in a state that restricts abortion, the Supreme Court's decision does not prevent her from traveling from her home state to the state that allows it. It does not prevent a doctor in that state.
Okay, let me just say this. Gas is $5 a gallon. If you can't afford a baby, how the fuck are you going to afford to go to another state? Please tell me this. Again, this is all coming from a standpoint of people that have money. That's what standpoint this is coming from.
That state from treating her As the Attorney General has made clear, women must remain free to travel safely to another state to seek care they need. My administration will defend that bedrock right. If any state or local official, high or low, tries to interfere with a woman's exercising her basic right to travel, I will do everything in my power to fight that deeply un-American attack. My administration...
Lindsay, yes. In theory, yes. But majority of the country is putting it against abortion. That's how, and they know this. They know they're voting like this. So you can say in theory it's great that they're giving states the go-ahead. You know, they can make their own. But guess what? If you do some research, majority of the states are going against abortion.
Also protect a woman's access to medication.
Well, damn, what just happened?
That are approved by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, like contraception, which is essential for preventative health care. Mifepristone, which the FDA approved 20 years ago.
Let me just say this real fast, and then I'll stop interrupting it. But I keep seeing people saying it is a majority, Sarah. Look it up. I'll show you a map. But let me go one step further. I keep saying, like Melanie, you said that, you know, accepting incest and rape. But the child doesn't know about the incest or rape. They're just a child. You can't use that theory and then say that murder is murder. Because that innocent child wasn't asked to be conceived by rape or incest or anything. So murder is murder. You can't make an exception like that because unless it's the baby's fault, and it's not the baby's fault. So either way, that's wrong. Sarah, I'll show you.
To safely end early pregnancies, and is commonly used to treat miscarriages. Some states are saying that they'll try to ban or severely restrict access to these medications. But extremist governors and state legislators are looking to block the mail or search a person's medicine cabinet or control a woman's actions by tracking data on her apps she uses are wrong and extreme and out of touch with the majority of Americans. The American Medical Association, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists wrote to me and Vice President Harris stressing that these laws are not based on evidence and asking us to act to protect access to care. They say by limiting access to these medicines, maternal mortality will climb in America. That's what they say. Today.
Shit. But Melanie, that's not going to happen. That's what you're not getting. These women are not going to be like, hey, okay, let's go ahead and just give my baby to somebody. Let's go ahead and kill. I have twins plus one. Believe me, I've carried a baby. I've carried twins.
Today, I'm directing the Department of Health and Human Services to take steps to ensure these critical medications are available to the fullest extent possible. And the politicians cannot interfere in the decisions that should be made between a woman and her doctor. And my administration will remain vigilant as the implications of this decision play out. I've warned about how this decision risks the broader right to privacy for everyone. That's because Roe recognized the fundamental right to privacy that has served as a basis for so many more rights that we've come to take for granted, that are ingrained in the fabric of this country. The right to make the best decisions for your health. The right to use birth control, a married couple in the privacy of their bedroom, for God's sake. The right to marry the person you love. Now, Justice Thomas said as much today. He explicitly called to reconsider the right of marriage equality, the right of couples to make their choices on contraception. This is extreme and dangerous path the court is now taking us on. Let me close with 2 points. First, I call on everyone, no matter how deeply they care about this decision, to keep all protests peaceful. Peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. No intimidation. Violence is never acceptable. Threats and intimidation are not speech. We must stand against violence in any form, regardless of your rationale. Second, I know so many of us are frustrated and disillusioned that the court has taken something away that's so fundamental. I know so many women are now going to face incredibly difficult situations. I hear you. I support you. I stand with you. The consequences and
the real Lady Justice, that's a whole separate issue that I agree with you. The cost of insurance and medication now, including birth control, is insane. That's a whole nother issue that I agree with you.
Consensus of the American people, core principles of equality, liberty, dignity, and the stability of the rule of law demand that Roe should not have been overturned. With this decision, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court shows how extreme it is, how far removed they are from the majority of this country. They've made the United States an outlier among developed nations in the world. But this decision must not be the final word. My administration will use all of its appropriate lawful powers.
Yeah, Brantley, they did.
But Congress must act. And with your vote, you can act. You can have the final word. This is not over. Thank you very much. I have more to say this in weeks to come. Thank you.
Well, there you have the President of the United States calling this a sad day for the court and the country, pledging to do everything in his power to protect women's health. He said now, with Roe gone, let's be clear, the health and life of women are now at risk. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Nancy Cordes. And Nancy, what actions can the president take?
Well, we only heard him give one actual specific in that speech, Nora. He said that he's going to be direct.
That's a great answer, Tequila. I wish I could highlight. I could pin that. What a great comment. Hold on, I'm going to pin that. Tequila says, oh, if you don't want to feed them, don't worry. You'll have your guns. Just go ahead and take them out at school. Great comment.
The Department of Health and Human Services to ensure that abortion pills are more widely available, particularly to women who live in states where abortion is now illegal. What he did not say is whether he is going to push the FDA to drop restrictions that currently limit the number of pharmacies that can provide those abortion pills. He didn't announce any new executive orders. Doesn't mean that those won't happen in the days to come, but he didn't lay out any specific plan right now to do things like issue travel vouchers to women so that if they need to go 1,000 miles to get an abortion, it can be a little cheaper for them. He didn't talk about giving service members time off if they live in a state that doesn't allow abortions and they need to travel. So there are going to be a lot of questions on the minds of abortion rights activists about just how far he is willing to go personally. He says he's going to do everything that he can. He called this ruling an extreme ideology and a tragic error, but we're still waiting for some of those details to be filled in, Nora.
And Nancy, the president also making the case that this decision is not the final word. He said that Congress should act, they could act, but he also said, with your vote, you can act, and laying out the case that this will be a central issue in the upcoming midterm elections.
Right, very explicitly laying out a midterm election message saying that the only way to secure women's rights is for Congress to make the right to an abortion a federal law. And he said, we don't have the votes to do that right now. Democrats don't. And so if people care about that, they need to vote in November and elect pro-abortion rights candidates at every level, at the state level and at the national level. And that is an argument that you're already hearing today, Nora, not just from the President of the United States, from the Speaker of the House and virtually every Democrat that has spoken so far.
All right. So I'm a little behind. I can't even watch this. In my state, we have a 1937 law. Yeah, by the way, someone that said, a few states won't do, 22 states. Now, remember, there's 50 states in the U.S. More than half of them are about to make abortion illegal. Just so everyone who thinks that, it's a state thing, they're not going to do it. Yeah, more than half. I'm sorry, a little less than half. My bad. My math is a little off.
That don't have their own abortion protections sort of retroactively set up.
So, in those states, abortion may become illegal. It depends on what happens within the state legislature. So it's now up to the state legislatures and state courts, because state courts can, through their own constitutions, guarantee this right, because you can always have greater rights provided by a constitution than the federal constitution.
But if there's nothing specifically on the state books right now about abortion access one way or the other, that means they still have access to abortion?
Absolutely. Okay. If it's not criminalized, it's not a criminal law.
Right.
I wanted to point out some of the decisions that, not decisions, but some of the comments that are being made across the board.
Sarah, but I'm not including, I'm saying who's going to make it completely illegal. I'm not saying who's there's like 15 states on top of that are going to access it. Hey, Just a Mom, that are going to access it or limit access to it for, 3 weeks. Like here where I live in Alabama, you have to, okay? You have to have an abortion within the first 3 weeks. 3 weeks. You don't even know you're pregnant for 4 weeks. But the first 3 weeks, you have to have an abortion. So that's already like that. And we're not included in the 22 states. We're like that. Georgia's like that. Mississippi's like that. All these southern states are like that. I think Florida's not. And all of us are in the same. Yeah, priests can molest children. All these things can happen. You can have guns. You can do all these things, but don't get pregnant. I think it's 3 weeks, and I gotta look, but I think it's 3 weeks.
By senators and former presidents. I wanted to start with Susan Collins out of Maine, and she said this decision is, quote, inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Kavanaugh said in their testimony.
Sarah, what is it now? It's 3 weeks. Like one says a heartbeat, that's it, right? Here in Alabama, one says a heartbeat, you're done. Like you can no longer have an abortion. They did this a couple of months ago, but I forgot exactly what it was.
Testimony in their meetings with me, where they both were insistent on the importance of supporting long-standing precedent that the country has relied upon. I think that's really interesting considering kind of the landscape of what we're talking about here. So how do you take this? How do you read this, knowing this sort of lay of the land of what was about to happen?
And Joe Manchin put out a similar statement as well, saying he felt hoodwinked, basically, right?
Whether that's a politically expedient statement or whether that's what they truly believed, I don't know.
No, they changed it, Tiffany.
But it certainly seems like, those of us who are paying attention to those confirmation hearings were certainly concerned about the nature of those rights, and especially the right to abortion, which has been a part of a very organized movement in the right-wing the legal wing of the right wing to dismantle that right. And so, it doesn't seem like much of a surprise, and it seems a little ingenuous to now claim that there was, no prior knowledge of that.
Disingenuous. Yes.
Either way.
I can still remember those interviews, though.
I do, too.
And a lot of people spent a lot of time listening into every word. And,
Well, we're going to take a short break now. We thank you. We'll get back to all of this conversation. Our breaking news coverage of the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade will continue next.
Stay with us. You're streaming CBS News, always on.
So pro-lifers, I got a question. Because I know a lot of you pro-lifers are pro-guns. So why is it okay for you to murder somebody that, how do I say this? Why is it okay for you to go ahead and murder someone that puts you in danger and makes you feel like your life is threatened? Well, guess what? In a lot of times, people that are desperate believe that a baby is going to destroy their life. They believe that a baby is putting them in danger. How come it's not okay to murder them? Sorry, it's the same thing. And I know you think it's not the same thing, but it is the same thing. Sorry, it's my chair. My feet are cold. That's the best thing you have ever said? Are you being sarcastic or serious? Sometimes I don't know who's being serious. Plan B is still murder. I don't care. It's Plan B is still a fucking abortion. Just because the baby doesn't have a heartbeat doesn't make it any less of what that baby's going to turn into. So you can't say that you're for killing a baby before it even begins, because it's still murder. If you know that that baby's going to turn into a baby, then guess what? It's still murder. You can't pick and choose. I'm a murderer too, Anastasia, and I have no problem with it. If someone pulls a gun on me, I didn't make that choice. If someone gets raped, they didn't make that choice either. If somebody gets, is a victim of incest, they didn't make that choice either. As of 2022, Alabama law states no abortion during or beyond. And I agree with that, but I'm telling you, maybe it's still in Congress or whatever. It's still in debate, but they had a whole big thing about it. I did a live about it. I'm not saying abortion is right. I'm saying that it's my fucking choice to do. That's what I'm saying. It's not Melanie's choice if I can bring a baby in this world. It's not Melanie, and I'm using Melanie because I love her, but it's not Melanie's choice if I can afford my children. It's not Melanie's choice if I should have a child. Yeah, but media, you're missing my point. Rape and incest is still murder. The baby didn't do anything. The baby's still a baby. You can't say that if it's murder if it's incest or rape, then it's okay to murder that baby. You're still murdering a baby if you want to look at abortion as murder. You can't pick and fucking choose which point is murder and which isn't. It's all murder. But it's my choice to decide if I'm a murderer or not. Plain and simple. Just like it's my choice if I want to own a gun. It's my choice if I want to stay in the, doing the schools. That's my choice. Who speaks for the baby? You know what? Every single person who has to raise that child is who speaks for that baby. I believe life happens when not conception. I believe life happens at birth. First breath is when life happens. That's my opinion. Exactly, Sarah. It's your choice to do it. No, but media, you can't have it both ways. You just can't have it both ways. Thank you, Jedi. Jedi, I haven't seen you in a long time. You just can't have it both ways. If you believe it's murder, then it's murder regardless of the circumstances. It's murder regardless of what happened to the mom. Exactly. Exactly, William. Because who's gonna raise these babies? Roe v. Wade was based on a right to privacy, and it was also raised on the right so people were not murdering themselves. People were not having street abortions. People were not sticking wire hangers up their coochies and trying to kill a baby. This shit ain't gonna happen. Stuff isn't gonna stop. Now it's gonna go back to exactly no good vibes. I do not at all. I do not believe in late abortions at all. I am a firm believer that an abortion needs to happen within the first 10 to 12 weeks. If you do not get rid of that child within 10 to 12 weeks, then I have no sympathy for you. I do not agree with late-term abortions. I don't even believe with second trimester abortions. First trimester only. That's my personal feeling. I think 20 weeks is way too late. It should be in the first 10 weeks. The lower, the better. I really say like 6 weeks. You shouldn't have time to think about it. That baby shouldn't have time to develop. But that's my personal choice.
But again, peaceful and subdued. There's no rancor, there is no fisticuffs, there's no pushing, there's no shoving, and probably...
I don't, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, Sarah. It's not that I believe or not believe. What I feel that if I was going to have an abortion, I know, I mean, I've had twins and I have a single. I know what it's like to where a baby is at 10 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks. It's a baby. It is. But it's not living until I'm no longer a host. So I personally think not to kill a baby that late in life or that far along in a pregnancy. But if a baby at 23 weeks, and no hospital's even going to try to save that baby because the baby is not going to survive on its own. If a baby is not going to survive on its own, then you know what? I'm sorry, but it's not going to survive. And a hospital won't even try to save it. So you're just a host.
That side of the movement all that time, but are elated, genuinely elated. When this decision was handed down, some fell to their knees and wept tears of joy. Those who support abortion rights, as I said, using that rhetoric, very embittered, but they also have told me they believe that this is now a galvanizing moment politically for this issue. They told me, you know, so many people that they have talked to who support abortion rights generally never thought this day would come. And I've talked to advocates here who've been working this issue, saying for the better part of 2 years, hey, this right is going...
Jenny, is that the new one that I'm talking about? I mean, I know we had something going on here where it was like 3 weeks.
To be taken away. This Supreme Court is moving in this direction. And many people they talked to, they told me, said, no, that's never going to happen. And now it has. And they believe fundamentally that will change this political question from what on the supporting abortion rights side was an abstraction to now a very real retrenchment in defined...
But Melanie, people were asking me about my personal choice. My personal choice is I would never have a baby. I would never have an abortion after 10 weeks. That's what I'm talking about. That's my choice. My choice. That doesn't mean that's Empress's choice. That doesn't mean it's Clarissa's choice. That doesn't mean it's Boss Lady's choice. That's my choice. That I personally do not believe in having an abortion after 10 weeks. I would not do it. I just wouldn't. But if Clarissa, who happens to be pregnant at the moment, if Clarissa, something major happened and she's 23 weeks pregnant and she can't continue this pregnancy and needs to do something, who the fuck am I to judge her? It's her life. She's the one that's going to have to take care of this child. She's the one that's going to have to raise this child. She's the one that's going to have to, live with her decision. That's on her. Who am I to judge that? That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Clarissa. I know you're going to have a wonderful, healthy pregnancy and a wonderful, healthy baby.
Rights in this country. What does privacy mean and what doesn't it mean? And they believe that will change not only the political debate, but the political dynamic in the nation's capital and in every state capital across the country.
Let's bring in, thank you, Major. I wanted to go to...
So for the idiots that keep saying, well, I just said I'm, not more than just a host. For the next 30 years of my life, I have to pay for this child. I have to raise this child. Do you know what happens to children that are born to unwanted families? Do you know what happens to these kids? Do you know what it's like to raise a child that you did not fucking want? Let alone the expenses of it. Let alone having to pay for children that you did not want, that you weren't mentally ready to have, that you weren't mentally prepared to have. I know a 17-year-old that's pregnant, and I sat with her yesterday begging her, put it up for adoption, do something. After we talked, I said to her, just make me a promise that you will drop it off here if God forbid anything should happen. She's like, Laura, really? I said, I'm just saying, I don't want you. I know how you are. I don't want to see you, kill this baby or hurt this baby because you're bored with it or you're not ready for it. Had this whole conversation with her. And, I know that she would drop it off here before anything. But I had to say it. And it's sick in today's world that you would have to even say something like that. But you got to do what you got to do because you don't know where people's heads are anymore. You don't know what people are going to do anymore when you have young people. But it's not that easy to adopt it out. It's just not that easy. I would not want to have a child carry a baby for 9 months and then just drop it off and then say, here, someone else can have it. Bullshit.
Come down. He did say that he was going to be directing the Department of Health and Human Services to ensure that abortion pills are made more widely available, but he didn't go into any specifics about how he plans to do that. He didn't announce any new executive orders. It doesn't mean that those executive orders won't be forthcoming in the coming weeks, but it appears that the White House for now decided that the message today should be more simple and straightforward, which is to argue against what the Supreme Court has just done and to push Americans who disagree with this decision to vote for Democrats in November if they want to have any chance of seeing a federal law that establishes.
Do you think that all parents who wanted children can handle it? Why are people living in this misconception that just because you want to adopt a baby, you're going to be a wonderful parent? Those families still end up in divorce. Those families still end up with, children that are molested. They still end up in fucked up homes. I mean, everyone seems to think that people that adopt are in this idealistic environment. They're not.
The universal right to an abortion in all 50 states.
He did make it a galvanizing call to voters, for sure. And Nancy, you bring up a good point, though. As you pointed out, the president's own stance on abortion has evolved somewhat through the years.
Sarah, are you a mom? Have you ever carried a baby from beginning till end? Because if you did, you wouldn't ask me such a dumb question.
Abortion rights have not always been such a politically polarizing issue. There have been plenty of Democratic Catholics through the years who have been anti-abortion access, and there have been Republicans through the years who've been openly, pro-abortion access. So how did it sort of crystallize to where we are right now? What was the historical basis for the sort of entrenched political polarization we're seeing now?
Well, a big part of it was the fact that moderate lawmakers on both sides were voted out of office as their parties became more polarized. It became more difficult to get reelected as a Democrat in a right-leaning state. It became more difficult to get reelected as a Republican in a left-leaning state.
My first two happened at the same time. At no point at 33 years old did I think I wanted a baby, let alone two babies. I went to the hospital. I planned on getting an abortion until I found out I was having two. Then I said, well, hell no, I'm not giving up twins. I was also told in that pregnancy that my daughter had Down syndrome. And they even did 4D x-rays, 4D scans, and said that there's a very good chance that she had Down syndrome. Did I want to abort her? Can you imagine if I aborted Sage? Like, seriously? But I couldn't afford them. I was a single mom. I still can't fucking afford them. And somehow we made it to now. But if it was only one child, I should have been given that right. The same way they asked me if I wanted to abort her at like 20, I think it was 18, 19, 20 weeks or something. I have 2 sons and a daughter. So, in all fairness, I could have gotten rid of a Down syndrome baby because it would have made my life easier. Thank God she didn't have Down syndrome, but I didn't care either way. Can you imagine, though? Like, that to me was wrong. Why would you even ask me that far along? I just didn't want to do an amnio. But, you know, to really find out. But they, without even doing an amnio, they told me that, do you want to abort it? Of course I love my kids. Absolutely love my kids. But they were my choice. I chose to have them because I was ready to have them. But again, if it was one baby, I would have aborted him, her, him, whatever. Only because it's twins that I did not. And Dayton was totally unexpected, but I was not supposed to be able to have kids. Well, I could. Brad couldn't. Brad told me he couldn't have kids anymore, that I didn't have to worry, that he could not have kids. Sure enough, here comes Dayton. The most expensive child ever in the face of the earth. Just saying.
Descent, where they all, it was the 3 liberal justices together as one voice.
They are only a blessing because I wanted them. That's the only reason they're a blessing, because I wanted them. I was ready for them. I had an abortion when I was 25, and I don't regret it at all. I don't think of it at all. Guess what? I wasn't ready for a child. I didn't want to be a mother. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't mentally ready. I wasn't emotionally ready. I was at a time in my life that I didn't want it. I didn't want a baby then. And I'm thankful that I didn't have one then, because who knows where that baby would be, because I didn't want it.
Voice speaking so powerfully about how they believe that the court has really deprived women of equality and equal treatment, and this would have devastating consequences for women. So, I mean, it was as you would expect, an incredibly powerful.
You're right, media, but it's also the reverse. It's also the reverse, that people want babies until they realize the physical, emotional responsibility of having a child. Then all of a sudden they don't want it.
Say a Democratic president could have replaced her. Roe versus Wade would still be the law of the land. Mm-hmm. So she was replaced by a Republican nominated by President Trump because she died while she was on the bench. So those are the kind of things that can affect the direction and future of the Supreme Court. And this is likely to be the Supreme Court for a long time.
Hold up. I was on birth control when I got pregnant at 25. Just saying. I was on some kind of shot. I don't remember. I think it was a Depo shot, but I don't totally remember. But I was on birth control when I got pregnant. So nobody can give me the birth control fact, because I was. Nobody even knows how I got pregnant. But I did not want it.
And so when we talk about, protesting at the court, or what can people do, or what should people do, it's over at the Supreme Court. Now it's going to go to the states. It's going to go to Congress. The court is saying, take it to your elected officials. That's the way it was until 1973. There was never a federal right in the Constitution. No state had ever recognized.
You're right, Common Sense. That is a choice you still make if having sex. You're right. That is a choice. It is my choice. If I choose, thank you, White Lotus. If I choose to have a child, that's on me. If I choose to have sex and get pregnant, that's on me. Every part of that is my choice. My choice, not God's choice, not anybody else's choice. It's my choice. Therefore, if I want to abort that child, that is my choice too.
In some of these red states who may not have the funds to travel to, half the states that will still allow it. You can talk about things President Biden can do. He's pretty limited. Even the idea of federal funds for travel. There's a federal law in the books that prohibits federal funds for abortion generally. That's going to be, I think, a really hard row to hoe.
So aside from where people sit on this...
That was a long answer to your question about the
it's a good answer.
Don't
It's
get
a
me
good
going,
answer.
sir. I mean, I'm sorry.
Katie
by the door. Excellent answer.
No, Jan, I sit back and just kind of like looking at this as a layperson, watching what actually happened, actually over the last 2 days. The layperson might look at this and say, wait a minute. So states have control on this one issue, and yet the federal government has control on this other issue.
You're talking about the gun case.
In the gun case.
In the gun case.
And so when you look at sort of the Supreme Court appears to be kind of like on a case-by-case issue on a various number of subjects here. And you look at this concept of stare decisis or precedent, which is central to the Supreme Court.
Exactly. Ban sperm. Let's just ban sperm. I think guys should be held responsible. Forget us. Let's make the men responsible. Let's come up with free birth control, free condoms. Well, you can get free condoms at my doctor, by the way. I mean, seriously, let's hold the guys responsible. Hey, Skip. Exactly. My choice over my body has been taken away. Well said. 629,000 abortions in 1 year. Okay, 600. So now, heels in the air, let's go with that theory. So 629,000 abortions a year. Now they have now become babies, okay? Now there's 629,000 babies in the world. Who's paying for them? Tell me who is paying for these 700,000 new babies. Please tell me. Every year, no less. Wasn't COVID to, try to help population here? Tell me how people are paying for 700,000 babies every year. Good luck with that. You think taxes are high now? Just wait.
Court ruling. But you have a situation where the majority of justices went against precedent. So when you look at, it seems like they're cherry picking to the layperson a decision that...
Yeah, by the way, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Anastasia. People are saying, oh, just adopt, just adopt. Alabama's new law is 15 weeks. Okay, I knew there was something, Oaklancy. Thank you. But hold up. It's about abortion, about adoption. Do you know how expensive adoption is? Has anyone ever tried to adopt a child? Do you think it's cheap? You need to be wealthy to adopt a child. Just saying.
Isn't based on what has been done before or what has been done in the past, or at least even on the same side of, okay, this is a state's issue, states have rights, versus the federal government has extensive control here. So, I mean,
right.
What's going on here, I guess, is my question.
I think that the bottom line is elections matter. And Republican presidents, as we've seen, are going to nominate justices who see the Constitution in a more narrow way. And so they're going to look to the words of the Constitution, and they're going to look to history. And they're not...
You are right, apples and bananas. You are 100% right. None of this falls on men, other than the men get to do whatever they want. Stay far away from men, far away. I agree, Red Road Runner. Stay away from men. Don't go near men. Boys are aki. Be 75% gay. If I were to make a point, it would be to mandate condoms the way we mandated masks. There you go. You were going to have many dead women and teens with coat hangers and infections. Damn right you are. Because just remember, too, didn't most clinics get shut down, if I'm not mistaken? Didn't they shut down most Planned Parenthoods and all these other things that we have access to? That we, like when we were growing up, my age, like we had access to birth control free. We had access to things that were free that are no longer free that cost a shitload of money. I disagree with that notion, Plex. We adopted and only making 75... Candy, do you realize what you're saying? Think about it. You adopted and only making $75,000 a year combined between you and your husband. Do you know that majority of America makes less than that? Do you realize that? I know I know 75,000 is not, you're not swimming in dough, but majority of America makes less than that as a couple. So for lack of a better way to say this, that is generally a decent amount of money by normal standards. I don't know the right word because I know today's day and age it's all whacked, but I know what I'm saying. I hope I'm expressing it right. You see, Empress knows what I mean, but I get what she's saying. Murder is murder to me? No. I don't think like that. I think that... All right, here we go. Hold on.
Those laws go into effect, and fairly immediately, the access to abortion within their state will end.
Right. I want to say the ones that are immediate, I'm just going to say, are Kentucky, Louisiana, and South Dakota. Right?
We have
the
it
graphic.
up. Can we go back to that graphic?
It's
really important. We pinpoint this graphic that you just had up. There we go.
There you go. So the immediate ones are Louisiana, Kentucky, and South Dakota. And then within 30 days, Idaho, Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Utah, Wyoming. I think that's the complete list.
Mm-hmm. So what, it's like, so some of these are pretty much landlocked.
Yeah.
You'd have to go through 3 states in order to access a legal abortion. But there's even a question as to whether or not, in some cases, people will be able to travel across state lines to get an abortion if they so choose or decide to do that.
Right. And I mean, there's also a question about access to information. So, I am sure that there are groups out there who are working already and have in the works ways to give this information about the pill that works as an abortion pill and ways to think about travel and to get funds. But how is that information going to be disseminated to people who need it, especially those who do not have means to access that information on their own?
Absolutely. And Janet, if you're still with us, can you comment on how this might affect other 14th Amendment cases?
Well, that's been a huge question, obviously. And remember, we got the draft opinion that was leaked about 2 months ago that said, and Justice Alito in that draft opinion said it's not going to. I thought it was interesting that today the court actually went into a little more analysis on that and said that it doesn't. And we don't know how we can be more clear. The right to contraception and a right to same-sex marriage, yes, while grounded in some of the same constitutional protections as the right to an abortion was, that abortion is different. It is unique because unlike the other issues, abortion involves the life of someone else. This is how the court put it. Now, there was one justice, Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote separately, just by himself, saying, but I think that it does affect those other cases. But, like we've been discussing, day in and day out. It takes 5 votes at the Supreme Court. And right now, Justice Thomas, who is the most conservative justice, who is willing to look at any precedent, is the only one that says that.
So, Janet, is he signaling that he would reverse, same-sex marriage?
He thinks that's on the table because he doesn't think that, the liberty interest found in the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, is he thinks that's just kind of made-up law. So he's saying, like,
all right, so let's discuss that for a minute. I know that some of you are gay. How are you going to feel when the same Supreme Court overturns your fundamental right of getting married? Because they don't agree with it. Because they think it's wrong. Answer that. Like, tell me how you feel about that. And I'm not talking about my pro-choice people. I'm talking about my pro-lifers who are gay. Or even pro-lifers that aren't gay but believe in gay marriage. You are born gay. It's not even a choice. It's not even like you're having sex and it's a choice. It's not even a choice. You are who you are. Or 75% gay. But you are who you are. Plain and simple. So what, and you guys fought for so long for rights to decide who, that nobody's going to tell you what you can do with the way you're born. And what's a choice? Being gay is not a choice. Don't even go there. Being gay is not a choice. Nobody chooses to have, nobody chooses to be gay. Nobody chooses to be trans. It's who they are. It's how they were born, and it's who they are. And that's never going to change. Exactly. Gay is not a choice. But here comes a Supreme Court who's going to tell you that all your rights that you work so hard for is going to be overturned. Media, I'll give you one chance to change that before I got to boot you. I don't deal, and common sense, you're out too. Anyone that is so ignorant that thinks being gay isn't a choice, you got to go. Sorry. I can't deal with that kind of ignorance. I can deal with opinions. I can't deal with ignorance. That is straight up fucking ignorant. Bi is a choice. Maybe. I'll go with that. But gay is not a choice. You're born gay. Plain and simple. Or you're born into another body. You really know that you're a female, but you're a man. But you should be a man. So you're born into the wrong body. So where this all plays a part is if they overturn that and they say that you can no longer marry, how are you going to feel about that? Is that going to be okay? Are you going to have a different opinion of the Supreme Court when they tell you that you can't marry because they don't agree with it? Or are you going to say, it's my body, it's my dealings, I have to deal with it? I'm sorry, I just can't. Yeah, wealthy women have always had access to abortions. That is true. Just like wealthy people still will. You can drive to New York. You can drive to California. You can drive to Pennsylvania. You can drive to places where abortion is okay.
Yeah, that's on the table too. But he's the only one. That's my point. And so you're either going to, potentially you're going to have 4 more justices who agree with Justice Thomas, appointed by presidents down the road. Right now,
Okay, but media is evil. Maybe because, just maybe, it's because I don't know how old you are, but maybe 20 years ago, they didn't feel comfortable. I grew up in a time where you couldn't be who you were. You couldn't be gay. You couldn't, we used to see guys holding hands on the streets of New York City. And growing up there, it wasn't all that bad, but you couldn't do that in Alabama. You couldn't do that somewhere else. Oh no, you couldn't do it. You couldn't be gay. You couldn't tell someone you were gay. You certainly couldn't tell someone you were trans. But now that it's more accepted, more people don't have to hide who they are. More people don't have to be in shame. More people don't, are allowed to come out and it's accepted. So maybe that's why there's a surge. I don't think anybody chooses to be the opposite sex. I just don't.
Other four who agree that Roe should be overturned or emphasizing that no, those cases are not on the table because abortion is different.
So Justice Thomas is on an island as far as this.
And that's not unusual. That's not unusual. Justice Thomas is perfectly fine being out there on an island of his own. He's been like that since he joined the court. He was willing to go his own way. He doesn't really care what people think.
Media, I know a lot of people say that, and I know that I'm a pretty strong-headed woman, but let me tell you, there is nothing in the universe that makes me want to eat another woman. Sorry, just doesn't. You couldn't sway me. You couldn't pay me. I like guys. I just do. I like strong, big men with broad shoulders and peepees. That's just what I like. You couldn't sway me any other way. You couldn't sway me to be with a girl. You couldn't sway me. So that whole swaying thing, you can't convince somebody to go down on another person of the same sex if they're not interested. Sorry, just can't. You certainly can't get me to be a man because I'm all woman. You couldn't sway me anyway. Just saying.
He thinks his duty is to follow the law, or as he says, how he thinks the law should be interpreted. So to me, it's another concurring opinion from Justice Thomas by himself right now.
All right, Jan Crawford, we thank you. Rebecca Rafi, we thank you. We're going to take a short break.
Yeah, PP. Thank you, Rodvana. I'm the same way. I'm not a young, vulnerable child. No, but I do have 3. And I can assure you that if one of them wanted to be with same sex, go for it. I don't care. Do whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy makes you happy. But I don't think they could be swayed. I think, it's cool to say that, yeah, I like girls, or yeah, maybe I'm bi. Like I joke around with the friend of Sage's all the time. It's one thing to joke around about it, but it's another thing when I couldn't sway Dayton to dress like a woman. I just couldn't. Like, no matter how hard I would try, he wouldn't do it. And vice versa. Same thing with Phoenix, same thing with Sage. I agree, YouTube. It is more than heartbreaking.
Breaking news coverage of the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade will continue next.
That's right. Stay with us. You're streaming CBS News, always on.
Why would you cancel it, Peekaboo?
Mom.
What?
What do you think of the overturned Roe versus Wade?
What?
What do you think of Roe v.
I think
Wade?
it's absolutely disgusting. And I think you better use condoms.
Me?
Anybody. Anyone having sex. Some people choose to be with same sex for psychological reasons.
Mom, how can you say that?
I don't totally believe that heels in the air. I really don't.
Mom,
that's like fake gay.
Mom, that's ironic. That's how you did not mean to make me. But you and Dad, I'm not gonna get into.
No, your dad told me he could not have children.
Yeah, but like still though, you said that you should always use one, but yet that's ironic. That's irony, Mom.
Well, because your father told me he couldn't have children. And I, like an idiot, believed him. And here comes Dayton.
You know what Dylan told me?
What?
He said condoms are overrated. Never use them.
He didn't. That's why
That's what Dylan told me. Dylan, he was like, I was talking to him, he's like, make sure to never use a condom. They're overrated.
No, not today. Not in today's day and age. My son is smart enough to ask this.
What?
Sexual preferences on a spectrum? I don't know why people say that. Exactly, Tequila. You're born straight or you're born gay. Or you're born, in the wrong body. There is no debate on it. I'm sorry. I know too many gay people that There's just no debate on it. They knew from the time they were very little what they were. It's just fact. My heart is with those daughters too. And I don't think anybody should be like judged on sexual preference or anything. Born in the wrong body, 1 in 100,000. Yeah, but you know what, media? I personally know someone that is. And my bestest friend in the whole wide world for years has Dayton's 14, so she's 13. And she knew early on that she was not a girl. So, and yes, she knew early on. And thanks to a wonderful mom and a caring mom and a beautiful soul, that 13-year-old is allowed to be who she wants to be. Or who he wants to be. I apologize. Kay, if you're listening, I apologize. He. I still call her she, but it's really he. No. Adrian's a mod. He's in here. Capone's a guy. It's not going to end well. DNC is that, just without the baby. What do you mean? DNC? A DNC like a clean out? It's not a it, it's a he. Oh, media, that is such bullshit. That is the ignorance I can't even deal with. No. That is ignorant. And many twin boy-girl relationships fail after college. So should I just kill both my twins because they're, gonna not get along later in life? I don't know what kind of statistic you read there, but no, that's way wrong. Abortions aren't illegal. The federal government just removed themselves. They didn't remove themselves. It is serious. No, a DNC happens after a miscarriage. As far as I know, DNCs are due to a miscarriage. They clean you out. But doesn't say you go back to the states now. It does, and most states are making it illegal. Or limiting access. Heavily.
Mom.
What?
I'm going to send you what my friend said about it.
What do your friends say? I want to know what your generation thinks.
Okay.
What does your generation think?
You want me to read the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's kind of a lot.
Alright.
Alright.
Come here, I can't hear.
Okay, so the first thing he said was... states... Oh, wait, hold on. I have to go way up. Here... So after they discussed it, states have I feel like every southern state will ban abortion unless it's like rape or incest. Hopefully that isn't the case though. They just keep it fully open no matter what. And then some people will just say, well, don't have sex and that won't happen. Mistakes happen. Even if you use protection, you have birth control, there's a chance to get pregnant. This is just horrible because it's stripping away rights from a woman and what she wants to do with their body.
He's a 14-year-old. This is how 14-year-olds think. A 16-year-old. A boy or girl?
Boy.
This is a 16-year-old guy.
There was 2 more 14-year-olds and then 2 more 16-year-olds who all agreed and said like the exact same thing. I can read some of that. This is just horrible because it's stripping away. I already read. I hate to be that person, but I know damn well a lot, especially in pornography, actors are going to lose their jobs due to the problem. I feel like abortions are fine, but condoms and plans and BS stuff is crazy to make illegal in some states.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I didn't even think of that. What about the porn industry? Forgot about that. All right, go on.
And then he said, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but making everything to prevent pregnancy illegal is stupid. I mean, if you get rid of the abortions, okay, but even get rid of things to prevent abortions from even happening in the first place. I've always been the pro-choice no matter what. I feel like it's a thing of choice to decide. If you were in the right to have this kid, if you are mentally stable enough, financially stable too, you don't want to have that kid is going to live a horrible ass life because you decided not to make a choice.
Yep. That's right.
That was two 14-year-olds and 3 16-year-olds.
That's right. Yeah, what about prostitution? That's a good point.
And then another person said, this kid is...
I'm not on camera.
This kid's still 13, I know. Yeah, even with birth control, there's still about a 1% chance to get pregnant, and condoms only work about 95 to 97% of the time. So either way, it's like, yeah.
There you go. Poor porn stars, exactly. Women are losing rights. But you can take your guns. You can still keep your guns.
But that's what 3 16-year-olds and 2 14-year-olds said about it.
Okay, thank you. But as long as you got your guns, that's not a problem.
Great nation can now live up to its core principle that all are created equal, not born equal, created equal.
Created equal. Okay, well, the babies created from incest and all that, they were created equal too. So there shouldn't be an exception according to their theories.
Americans celebrate this historic victory because we know it will save the lives of millions of children and it will give families hope. But as encouraging as today's decision is, our work is far from done. Americans remain one of only 7 countries on earth that allow elective abortions in the 3rd trimester. Of those 7 countries that America's one of them, there's 2 others, China and North Korea. That is radical. The House Democrats continue to support it.
Then make abortion illegal in the 3rd trimester. Don't fucking make abortion illegal in total. That's not a victory. I'm sorry, but it's not. Hey, Misdemeanor.
Against the wishes of the American people. This Congress, every House Democrat has voted for extreme policies, like taxpayer-funded abortion on demand until the point of birth. But Democrats' radical agenda does not have America's support. To the contrary, America rejects it because they remain committed to our values and our principles. The Supreme Court was not bullied by the far-left mob. Threats of violence against the justices did not win. And the truth is, pro-life Americans are not planning a night of rage. The reaction to this principled decision by the court, it must be peaceful. And the DOJ must step up to protect our justices.
Yeah. Deborah, you're on chat. And I agree with you, JJ. 3rd trimester abortions are disgusting. I don't know how anyone could do that. I couldn't do it.
Their families, churches, and pro-life pregnancy centers from unprovoked violence. To the DOJ, do not be silent. Do not stand back and uphold the rule of law. We live in a country that is based on the...
Oh, Glancy, I agree with you, but the point is, it happens. People get pregnant on birth control. Plain and simple, it happens. And now, you may not have a choice but to keep the baby. What if you're 45 years old?
Dignity of all human life. With that, we'll take some questions. Yes, ma'am.
Leader McCarthy, Justice Thomas, as part of this ruling, has said that he wants to revisit things like the Supreme Court's decision on gay marriage and contraception. What do you all say to that?
Well, the Supreme Court is a different branch of government. They can look at whatever comes before them. I just know in what we are doing and what we have today is that life matters. That for so many years, life has stood up.
But would you all support
yes,
those
ma'am.
decisions being revisited?
The Supreme Court is a separate branch of government. They take their positions, yes.
If you were Speaker and House Republicans win the majority, what are some of the abortion bills that you would put on the floor?
Well, first and foremost, I believe in saving every life possible. Look at what we have done. Hyde Amendment? But more importantly, look at what the...
Why don't you fucking deal with the gun issues? Since you guys are just so important and you guys care about saving lives, why don't you deal with the school shootings? Why don't you deal with that first? I think that should raise, be a little more important, just saying.
The Democrats have done. For decades, that was a bipartisan position. Why did this new radical agenda, when the Democrats took the House, the Senate, and the White House, even the President Biden, who had supported that, removed that? You look at Ann Wagner's bill. And when you look at what we can do, we will continue to look wherever we can go to save as many lives as possible.
So you would put Ann Wagner's bill on the floor?
Leader, you touched on this a little bit, but current laws are still in place right now where the Attorney General is just not doing anything about it and playing politics. What would you want to tell him specifically?
I would tell him in less than 140 days, things are going to change here. And he will have now a Congress that will call him up. He will now have the ability of a Congress to have oversight. He will now have a Congress that will hold him accountable. Thank you all, and most importantly, to America. I continue to pray, one, for the safety of everyone, but more importantly, we now have a voice for all life. Thank you, and God bless.
So they have a voice for all life. What about the death penalty? Isn't that murder? Isn't that straight up murder? But that's okay because they deem them that it's okay to kill someone. So the states or the... Well, then again, that's a moot argument because death penalty is state facilitated. All right, ignore that.
And we've been listening to House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy discussing the Supreme Court's decision, praising today's ruling that has overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating federal protections for a woman to have an abortion. He calls the decision a victory, but says the Republicans' work is not done.
We have breaking news right now, though. We must go now to Congress. They have passed a landmark bipartisan gun bill. It's now headed to the president, Biden's desk, and that is where he is expected to sign it into law.
The legislation includes expanded
Great point,
checks for
Candy.
gun buyers under the age of 21, as well as funding for states to enact red flag laws and boost mental health services. It also closes the so-called boyfriend loophole to prevent domestic violence abusers from buying a gun. Let's listen.
Every single one of us in danger. And what I think many of our colleagues perhaps haven't quite, or perhaps they have fully understood, is that this also undermines the right to privacy in the United States of America. But we are here to solve this issue. Our job is to develop a path forward. And in that, we know that this House has passed and is willing to codify Roe. But what we also need is answers from our colleagues in the United States Senate. So to those senators who voted for these justices under the claim and the guise that this would not happen, this decision falls on them, what will they do as they were lied to? What will they do as a consequence of this decision? Whether that be Republican or Democrat. But we cannot allow this to go on unanswered. We are talking about a court with the majority of justices appointed by a party that has not won a popular presidential election more than once in 30 years. Ruling against the majority of Americans. We have a Senate that is controlled by minority rule. And we have a House suffering from the impacts of gerrymandering that amplifies and undermines our democracy. We are in a very dangerous moment, not just for women, not just for LGBT communities, not just for all of us, but we are in a dangerous moment in the world because this is not just about the right to choice. This is about rule of law and democracy and who is a full person in the eyes of the law. But to all of those who are watching today's events unfold in fear, in anger, in rage, in depression, in anxiety,
Remy.
one thing remains steady, that we will not stop fighting until this is fixed. And I say that to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We are not going away.
She reminds me of Natasha Cooper. Natasha Cooper takes breaks like that when she talks. I just ramble on and on and on and on.
Way. We stay. We fight. We push. And we will not be silenced. With that, I yield back to the gentleman. Thank you very much.
I thank the gentlelady for...
And you were just listening to Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez from the 14th District here in New York, speaking about abortion access, speaking about the fact that, you know, this isn't just about abortion rights. It's about a much larger precedent here and who is a full person in the eyes of law.
She also made the point that this is, you know, from her perspective about minority rule getting the last word, right, when you talk about the representative government that we have.
And there seems to be two very distinctive differences of opinion over how the United States as a whole has been polled as to how they feel about abortion rights versus, you know, access one way or another.
Right, exactly.
Well, we are going to take a short break. Abortion should be handled at the state level. With the decision, 26 states will or are likely to restrict abortion access. Some even have trigger laws which ban abortions immediately upon the court's decision. CBS News political contributor Sean Sullivan joins us now. He's also the deputy politics editor for campaigns at the Washington Post.
Alma, what's your opinion on this? I would like to hear Alma's opinion. Love you too, boss lady.
I wanted to pick up on what Speaker Pelosi said and that statement she put out. She says, quote, "The rights of women and all Americans are on the ballot this November. So is abortion going to be Democrats' new central focus for the midterms?"
Well, it seems pretty clear from the statements that we have seen, at least in the early going so far today, that that is something that Democrats do want to run on. They see this as an issue that can energize not only their base, but an issue that they could use to appeal to moderate voters, to voters.
Now, isn't that sad, though? Let's not talk about the actual facts. Let's not talk about what impact this has on American women. Let's just talk about how it relates to the upcoming election. Come on. That's what the focus is, how Democrats are going to use this. How about the impact it has on women? How about it? Who's paying for all these babies? How about, like, there's so many things that we can be discussing on national news and the media about how this affects, how this is going to affect every single one of our lives, taxpayers, everything. But let's talk about how it's going to be used in politics. That's the problem with America.
Voters in swing areas, to women, to men, to voters across the board. And even before this decision came down today, we have seen Democrats talk about this a lot more than Republicans have talked about, at least in a political context, at least in a campaign context. And so the early indications, at least from what we're hearing today from Speaker Pelosi, from candidates, Democratic candidates for Senate, for House, for other races, it's very clear now in the early going that they are looking to use this as a sharp point of contrast in these midterm elections. And I think we're seeing this virtually.
See, here's my real question. How many of these Supreme Courts have adopted I got to use my words wisely. These poor women who get knocked up because they're hookers and drug addicts, how many of the Supreme Court have adopted those babies? How many members of the Supreme Court have taken kids in from the ghetto, who have taken kids in who really won't have a fighting chance in life because of their surroundings? Tell me how many of the Supreme Court that were all for this, how many of those children they took? How many babies did they save from getting aborted? Where's their adoption papers? How many of these people who are pro-lifers have adopted children? I'd love to see the statistics on that, honestly.
Across the board right now.
And you brought up Republicans, Sean. So how are Republicans reacting to this decision politically? Because as we know from polling, the majority of Americans still support a woman's right to get an abortion. And
Melanie, you just brought up a really good point. Your key, the first word in there, but with my health insurance. Do you know a lot of people don't have health insurance? I don't have health insurance. I don't even have fucking dental at the moment. I've needed a root canal for 6 months. I've been waiting for my fucking stupid ass husband to get me on his dental. But I literally have not chewed on my right side because I don't have dental and I can't afford a root canal. And again, whatchamacallit? You have health insurance. A lot of these women don't have health insurance. A lot of these women can't afford a baby because they don't have health insurance. So you're speaking from a mom, dad, working family, but that's not a lot of these people.
And we know, even in not too, distant history, even a lot of Republicans said that they supported this, right? This hasn't always been a blanket.
Because they're forcing people to have babies that they can't afford. I can't afford my own children at the moment. It's just the way of the world. But if you're forcing people to have babies, then how many are you fucking adopting? Not you personally, but how many are these government people adopting since they want to save so many else's lives? Exactly. And even if they did, that's not going to... So what's going to prevent the problem? You can't force somebody not to raise a baby. You can't... But they're forcing people to have children. Don't you get what I'm saying? They are forcing people to have unwanted and unaffordable children. And they're saying that that's all that matters. But it's not all that matters. Because after birth, who's paying for these kids?
Republican position. So how are they reacting to this decision politically? Are they a little worried about, down ballot contests, considering that now this fight is essentially being moved to those down ballot contests?
Right, and this now becomes a state-by-state issue. I think there has been, for some time now, concern among Republicans.
Mel, if I could get health insurance for $82 a month, I would, but I can't. They want so much money for my health insurance. It is insane, and it's just, can't do it. I got to put my kids first, and they get all the insurance.
About what the political fallout could be in these midterm elections, from Senate races to House races to state level races. As for the Republican response today, we have seen some Republicans praise this decision. I would point to Mitch McConnell, the minority leader, who, every time he speaks, he chooses his words carefully, and you often see him try to set a tone, not just...
Melanie, and it's very easy to tell a drug addict, don't do drugs because you're going to get addicted. Don't drink because, you're going to become an alcoholic. It's very easy to say that, but it's not reality. Okay, don't have sex. Okay, well, don't do drugs. Don't drink. It's very easy to say that, but it's not a reality. Ooh, I would never pull my own wisdom teeth. Ouch.
For Senate Republicans, but for Republicans who are running for the Senate. And he called this, a historic victory. But the question now is, how much do Republicans want to talk about this? Their midterm blueprint has been centered very, very heavily in inflation, in rising gas prices, in the rise in violent crime that we've seen. They are really, really trying to run on those issues. And on top of that,
Lilac, I've already laid down the actual facts and stats. Who is paying for all these children? We can't afford our kids today. We can't afford $5 a gallon for gas. We can't afford $36 for a pound of chicken wings. But somehow we all make it happen. I don't know how, but we do. Somehow it all works out. But you can't tell somebody not to have sex. That's an ignorant mentality.
Into President Biden's unpopularity and a feeling that we're seeing across the country among many Americans, and this feeling's reflected in polls and focus groups and elsewhere, that they're just not happy with Democratic leadership right now.
Make insurance free. Make insurance free. And you would not be hearing me have this argument. You would not be having this argument at all. Melanie, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Tell him, come on panel. He wants to fight, let's go.
Right now, Democratic control of the White House, Democratic control of Congress. And so I think the fear that some Republicans have and have expressed in recent months is that, does a decision like this then change the landscape? Does it change the sort of order of operations when voters walk into the ballot booth, this year? What is going to be the time?
No, because Candy, we figure it out because we have no choice. When I didn't know how I was going to afford having twins, I figured it out. But that's because I wanted them. It wasn't because I was forced. It's because I wanted them. Plain and simple. I wanted to figure it out. But if I didn't want to figure it out, I wouldn't figure it out. I figured out how to deal with needing a root canal for the last 6 months. How have I dealt with it? I don't chew on that side. And I use lots of cleaners in my mouth. That's how I deal with it. That's how I've made it work. Insurance should be free. Medical care should be free. Plain and simple.
Top of mind issue. Is it going to be the high price of gas, or is it going to be the Supreme Court decision? Is it going to be crime, or?
But again, we figure it out because we want to. If I didn't want to figure it out, I wouldn't figure it out. If I didn't want a baby, I wouldn't try to figure out how to make it work because I didn't want it. I would push it aside. I would, ignore it. I would hope that something happened to it. Not me personally, but I would hope something happened to it. I would do whatever I could because I wouldn't want that baby. Sorry, but a lot of you guys are talking from an ideal perspective, and there's a lot of people that don't have that ideal perspective.
Is it going to be the Supreme Court and abortion rights more generally? And so I think that some Republicans look at this and they say, okay, there was a path, politically speaking at least, that they felt very, very confident about walking down that would lead, in their view, to winning back the House and possibly winning back.
Okay, Melanie, good point. Melanie says, I don't do drugs and I don't drink, but I also don't expect others to be responsible for my actions if I did. Okay, and I agree with you. But would you want to be forced to do drugs? Would you want to be forced to drink? Would you want to be told that you have to do drugs or you have to drink? You're being forced to have a child that you don't want, or that you can't take care of, or that you just don't like. It is what it is. And nobody should be forced to have something that they have to take care of the rest of their life if they don't want it in the first place.
Back control of the Senate. And I think now it's less certain. And so it's definitely worth watching how Republicans talk about this issue, because we've seen them before try to strike up.
No, many other countries, it's not like Medicaid. They actually have free insurance. Canada has free medical care. And they don't pay, they pay a little higher money, but they really don't. I know that was a horrible argument. I own that. That was a bad argument. Forcing your wills and beliefs on someone else and codifying into that law is unconstitutional, period. Don't worry about what the fuck I do, and I'll give you that same courtesy. There you go, Duckin. I agree. No man should have a right to tell me what to do with my body, period. It's exactly right. Johnny, I know they haven't been banned totally, but many states are heading that way. It's now up to 28. So now that it's up to 28, it's over. Exactly, YouTube dumpster fire. In the poorer communities in my state, you'd be floored about the lack of pregnancy and sex education. I agree. Canada's healthcare is worse, though. Look up the statistics. You think we have bad healthcare, wait times, etc. I don't know. Canada's much healthier than the U.S. I'd rather wait and have free care. I'd rather know that my mouth isn't swollen 24/7 because I can't afford $2,500 for a root canal. And if I lived in Australia or if I lived in Canada, I'd be able to take care of it. Going to be careful next to say women can't have tattoos or piercings or they can't change their gender. They need to stop telling us what we can and cannot do with our bodies. Amen. People don't realize children end up suffering. Of course they do, YouTube. I agree with that. But YouTube, just give it up for adoption. Just go ahead and give it up for adoption. Yeah, I don't live off fast food. Congrats on letting the progressives talk you into absolute bullshit. What? Who talked me into absolute bullshit? My mother-in-law had a major injury while in London. Although the care was free, it was absolutely terrible. Okay, half the care here is horrible. Oh, you pay for dental in Canada? All right. Might as well make masturbation for men illegal too. After all, they carry the baby first. There you go. You'll probably still be waiting for that root canal in a country with universal health care. Well, I'm still waiting anyway. You still wouldn't be able to afford it with dental insurance because my dental insurance, they only pay 20% of root canals. Yeah, but what they will pay for is I can get the tooth pulled and then I can get a fake tooth. That they will pay for. That's a difference.
A balance. Try to say, look, this is the right thing. I agree with this. But my state, in some cases you hear Republicans say this, my state has
between everything from the CHIP program to WIC to early childhood education, but to, expanding some of these resources. I think, this is just the beginning. And so we know that these resources are going to need to be connected to the moms and to these babies and support them as they grow. So, it's going to be a priority for us going forward. And it has been, and I think there's a huge interest in making it a strong priority.
There's a new effort to concentrate on that.
Right, absolutely. Jennifer Popick, we thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you.
And let me tell you something else too. This doesn't affect guys. This has nothing to do with men. Like, for real, this doesn't affect men at all. Because if a guy doesn't want to be involved, he don't have to be. It's all on the woman. Totally on the woman. $1,800 and I have insurance. Yeah, but the insurance that I need has to be the good insurance or it's way too expensive. My legal husband actually has good insurance and we've been waiting for months.
News coverage of the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade will continue next.
Stay with us. You're streaming CBS News, always on.
Political dynamic in the nation's capital and in every state capital across the country.
Let's bring in, thank you, Major. I wanted to go to CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cortez, who I'm sure has reaction to what the president said, but specifically what stood out to me was how he said, this takes us back 150 years. And I was just curious because that struck me. Yeah. What was he referring to in your estimation?
He was referring to the fact that even before Roe versus Wade, Michelle, there were states that allowed abortion, and that this was a right that was recognized, at least to some degree, at the federal level, even before the Roe versus Wade case in the 1970s. It's an interesting comment from this particular president, whose own views on abortion, abortion legislation, and even Roe versus Wade have really evolved over time. When he first came into office in the 1970s, President Biden said that he thought Roe versus Wade was wrongly decided, and that it was overly broad, and that as a Roman Catholic, he believed in the universal right to life, and he continued to vote in favor of restricting abortion for at least a decade after that. But over time, he did start to move more in the direction of most in his party, and the position he came to in more recent years is that while he himself is personally anti-abortion rights, that he doesn't believe that he should impose his faith on anyone else or his beliefs on anyone else, and he believes in the right for every woman to make her own.
Hey, let me ask you guys a question, okay? It takes two to have a baby. So you have the man and you have the woman. And the woman gets knocked up by a guy. She doesn't want the baby. He don't want the baby. So she decides, after she's forced to give birth, she's going to drop it off on his doorstep and say, "Here you go. It's all yours," and walks away. Did she abandon that baby? Because legally, I bet she could be charged with abandoning the baby. So did she abandon the baby in that circumstance? Yes or no? Captain Obvious, I don't know what you mean by on a Friday. Why do you think, what do you think the significance is of it being on a Friday? Because courts are closed over the weekend? Yes, what? Legally, she shouldn't be charged with, abandoning a baby. But I think that they could be. He kept absolutely nothing. He would hand over 3 out of 4 paychecks to his ex. There's safe haven law. Yeah, but it's the baby. It's the baby's father. It should have nothing to do with safe haven. There's 2 people that make a baby. So he should be just as responsible as she is. So if she decides to dump him off at the father's house, why would that be abandonment? He's just as responsible. If you're going to force me to have a child, then I'm going to force you to be a parent. Plain and simple. The nasty hoe it's been. Oh. Plain and simple. I'm going to force you to be a parent. I couldn't either, good vibes, but I'm just saying. But I'm just curious if you guys think that she would be charged with abandonment. Men are responsible. Not all men are irresponsible. I had a wonderful dad. My brother's a great dad. My uncle's a great dad. There are a lot of good dads. But I'm just saying, would she be held responsible? Think about it. How many men really step up to the plate? The good ones. She does not want it. Yeah, but Sarah, why should she? Why not give it to the dad? You're proving my whole point. Give it to the dad. It's half his. Plain and simple. It's half his. Drop it off at the dad. You deal with it. I'm over this. I don't want this baby. They're forcing me to have this baby, so now it's yours. Bye-bye. Enjoy. Tell the baby I loved him or her. Why does that make it wrong? Think about it. Well, think about it, though. Why would that be wrong? It wouldn't. It takes two. And that's what I think women should do. She shouldn't if it's the fight. No, but I think she would. I think. Doesn't matter who's on the birth certificate. If you know somebody's the father, drop it off. If women are forced to have babies, then shouldn't fathers be forced to be fathers? Plain and simple? Yeah, but one juror matters. You're missing my point. It shouldn't matter if they're safe havens. If you're forcing a woman to have a child, then that woman can force the father to be a father. Plain and simple. You need two people to have a baby. Can we take our life insurance policies on our fetuses with heartbeats? Can we take our life insurance policies on other people's? Hey, Amanda. Child supported conception. There you go. But you already said in your example, Laura, that the dad doesn't want the baby. Sarah, you're missing my point. It doesn't matter. The government is telling you you have to have this child. So if I have to have this child, well, I don't want this child. So you're the dad. You fucking raise it. Plain and simple. Your baby now. That's it. Don't know who the... Well, that's a Maury episode. Sarah, it's very expensive to raise a baby. Hey, Amy. Very expensive. It is a good point about the life insurance. But we are the government? No, we're not. With Supreme Court's a whole nother realm. They have nothing to do with us, according to what they said. Their rules are their rules. My friend did that and the baby went through 11 homes in it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, people say, oh, just adopt. There are people that want to adopt just to rape children. There are people that want to adopt just to abuse children. There are people that want to adopt just to keep babies as slaves. I mean, adoption is not always the answer. Or people want to adopt till they realize that they hate babies or they hate children. You know, people, pro-lifers are under this misconception that everybody's rich. I mean, here's a perfect example. I'll give you a good example. I have done a wonderful job of raising my kids by myself. And for majority of their life, I have done this all by myself. I have played mom, I've played dad, and I've raised 3 amazing children. It's cost me a lot, but I have raised 3 amazing children. And guess what? If I wanted to adopt, I can't. I can't adopt. They only want married mom and dad. You know how much money a single mom has to make in order to be qualified for adoption? They have to make tons. And they have to have daycare and a nanny and everything else. And guess what? Just because I may or may not have a husband doesn't make me a better parent. But according to who can adopt, you must have money, you must have a husband, you must own a home. I've never owned a home. They're starting to adopt more from overseas. Yeah, because it doesn't follow the same rules. You see what I'm saying? Adoption is expensive as hell. And they won't allow it if you don't follow certain criteria. Having a husband doesn't make you a better parent. Having a owning a house doesn't make you a better parent. It just doesn't. Did you know there are groups on Facebook to rehome adopted children like dogs? Yeah, we saw that with a YouTuber. So we need to make adoption easier. No, but Oaklandsey, I'm just saying that you cannot adopt a baby as a single parent, as a single working class parent. You can't do it. They won't allow it.
Mom.
So is adoption really so logical? No, they wouldn't let me adopt. I probably couldn't even foster a child. But guess what? I've raised 3 amazing kids. Well, 2. No.
Wow. All right, so one more thing. This was a 13-year-old.
All right, we got a 13-year-old perspective.
Pretty huge, so I understand why. It's fucking unbelievable. It's very ironic how they want to save children, but then let those children die in a school shooting.
Thank you. That's what we're saying. These are kids.
But I just don't know what we could do to improve. Also, another opinion. Religion should not play a role in law. We live in the United States. Not everyone in this country has the same religion, but when it comes to the law, we have to.
That's right.
And then the problem with that is that when people are raised, they're taught values that usually come from religion.
That's right.
That was a 13.
Who is saying these things?
Levi, Luke, Kai, my friend Ryan, me.
Okay.
2 of them donated to once as a joke.
Oh,
They're
the $2?
the ones who said the $1 each. Yeah, that was Levi and Luke. It's Kai, Ryan, Luke.
I'm about to start a PayPal for all the freaking money you're taking.
What?
I said I'm about to start a PayPal pool for all the money you've needed. It's not funny.
What? It's football.
Doesn't matter.
Also, am I going to camp?
I guess so.
Okay, well, thanks, coach. But, also, Levi said pretty much all of this. All of this was an argument, or not an argument, but, like, it was all talking about it. Or all of this was Levi talking about it with others. And then it was, so it's 4 16-year-olds and 2, like, 14 and 13-year-olds.
Okay.
I'm 14, 1 13, and then like 16 and 17. 1 17, but the rest 16. So
Okay.
they're all kids in my generation.
Okay.
Except one. But yeah.
Okay. No, Sarah, does she have millions of subscribers? Because yes, you can adopt as a single mom, but you have to make a lot of money and you have to own a home. And there's certain things that you have to do. Now this changes the game for miscarriages. What if they want to claim an innocent miscarriage was actually intentional? I get the point you're trying to make, but some of the stuff you say is just category. No, it's not. They want adoption. They want mom and dad. Or mom, you have to make a shitload of money. That's fact. You want me to pull up the stats? It's fact. Go try being a indigent single mom, barely surviving, and go adopt another child. Go see if they'll let you. They'll tell you you can't afford it, but they'll force you to have that child. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm getting at? And I love when people show, like, you know, an exception to the rule. Of course there's exceptions to the rule. But majority. When I say stuff, it's majority. Majority is you cannot adopt a child as a single mother who doesn't make a lot of money. That's majority. Call adoption places. Of course there's one person out there that can do it. But majority, you can't. I've never had a kid either, but I think I heard a rumor too that pregnant ladies shouldn't use hot tubs for some reason. No, that is true. It's because you started as a foster parent first. There are so many kids who need foster placement, and there are several foster to adopt options. it will lead to hidden pregnancies. That's why I said more whatchamacallit. I mean, the whole reason why Roe v. Wade was in the first place. Married gays even have a hard time adopting, for instance. Many countries don't allow it. There you go. Most women aren't. Yeah, I agree, Danielle. Some states want manslaughter charges for women using IUDs. I just told you about my friend's baby, whom was meant to have an open adoption. The newborn baby bounced to 11 homes in 2 years. But should a poor parent really be adopting? Oh, one juror matters? Here's a good point. I agree with you. A poor parent shouldn't really be adopting. However, they're stating that if that same poor person gets pregnant, they have to pay for that child. Tell me the difference. Show me the difference between a poor person adopting a child they can't afford and being forced to raise a child you can't afford. Same thing. Either way, they can't afford the child. Think about it. Seriously, think about it. There's no difference. If you were a pregnant mom placing your baby for adoption, nope. But Sarah, you're missing my point. You are going against your own point because you're saying that that's an ideal situation, okay? That you would want your baby in a two-parent home with someone who's financially stable, but that doesn't make them a better parent. You know, usually you have like, out of 3 kids, not all of them turn out well. So far, I have 3 kids that turned out amazing, that are all mature, intelligent, not on drugs, not pregnant, not having sex, working. You know, they may crash a car, but responsible, educated, future-oriented children. All 3 of them. So I've done better than a lot of people that have 2 parents and money. And we've lived week to week. You get what I'm saying? Just because, you know, the end result is, just because you have money doesn't make you a better parent. Just because you have 2 parents doesn't make you a better family. But in the adoption world, yeah, that works out better. What do you mean how? I just explained it. If I was in that situation, I had the option to choose. Because you're under that mentality that it's better. But like I said, I have raised kids that are doing better than so many families that have both parents and money. I grew up with both parents and money. I was still fucked up. By the time I was my twins' age, I was already out of rehab twice. And I grew up in a wonderful home with 2 parents and money. Imagine that. You know? But imagine that. So it doesn't matter if the ideal situation, because it doesn't mean that you're going to be a better parent. There's no doubt that it's less expensive for a parent couple to go through a 9-month pregnancy and adoption, safe haven, as opposed to raising it until 18 to 21. I think there should be huge restrictions. What do you mean by restrictions? What kind of restrictions? I think it should just be if you want to if you believe that you're a good mom and that you think, there you go, Danielle. My children were wanted and loved. But then again, Kiki, I was very wanted and loved, but I was fucked up. That's not my parents' fault. They did everything they could. I just chose a different path. Kids being murdered every single day by their families. That's right. Oh, I think you're going to see a lot more of Skylar Richardson stories where girls are going to get pregnant and hide it. Girls are going to get pregnant and bury them. Anyone that adopts should have to go to therapy, so they only give their best self to these children that already suffered trauma. True, too. Oh, she did, Alma. That's what I'm saying. My parents loved me. They still, my dad's dead, but mom still loves me. I mean, me and my brother grew up in the same home. My brother turned out great. He never did drugs, nothing. No, see, Sarah, I wouldn't go by that. I would go by did they really want a child? You know, you can figure out the money. You can figure out a lot of things, but you can't figure out love. You can't figure out desire. You can't figure out, you know, how to make it work if Laura is, I am the root of the problem. You just can't. You can't, money doesn't buy desire. Money doesn't buy yearning. Money doesn't buy parenting. Love makes parenting. That's what makes a good parent. Love. Education. Morals. You know, giving kids freedom. That's what makes a good parent. I did. But it was a long road to get here. I wasn't exactly prize child. I wasn't a bad child. I did drugs. Apple is the same American citizens that can't afford a single payer health system. As the overall point, you cannot make someone want to try. Exactly. Some people know they're not met. That's exactly right. And that's my whole point, giving payback. That is my whole point. You can't make someone want a child. And even in adoption, you don't know. The whole U.S. lacks morals and values. I agree with that, too. I definitely agree with that. Bye. I gotta take my Tums. Tums are a lifesaver. And they will complain when tax dollars are needed. That's what I'm saying, Remy. Who is paying for all 700,000 of these children? I don't know. We will. Taxpayers will. The government doesn't think that they're going to get 700, not 700, but they're going to get 500,000 more who need medical help or need Medicaid or food stamps or WIC or whatever. Who's paying for all that? We are. Tax dollars. Excellent point. 3 school shootings and those children had a right to life as well, and nothing's being done. Sarah, I don't know why you live under this premise that adoption is just so wonderful. And that, you live in like this ideal world that you got mom and dad and all these people who want babies can have, but that's not reality. That's such a small percentage of our lives. That's such a small percentage of adoptions. let's go one step further. And yes, I'm going to say this, and I don't care who hates me for it. The percentage of adoptions that you're saying are your all-American white family who wants a white baby, who doesn't want to raise a black child, they don't want to adopt a black child, and the black children of the world are still sitting in foster homes because the perfect mom and dad two-family home, they don't want a black baby. They want a white baby. They want a baby that can be their own and that people could want to be their own. That's your idealistic mom and dad, and who makes, over X amount of dollars. Why do you think all these black kids are thrown in foster care, or these black kids aren't adopted? Because the white family, they don't want anyone to know. They don't want their golf buddies to know that the baby really isn't theirs. They want people to say, oh, he looks just like you. Oh, she looks just like you. That's what they want. That's the idealistic world that you're talking about. And if you tell me otherwise, I'll show you statistics where I'm right. Exactly. Not everything is unicorn and rainbows. Read Coney Barrett's statement in the leak report. She basically said more white kids are needed for adoption. There you go. It proves my point. That proves exactly what I just said, and I didn't know that. Show me so many of these white families that want to adopt a black child who was conceived on heroin. Show me a child. Can I pull it up? Yes. Hold on. Okie dokie comment is on point. Who's okie dokie? Hold on, let me find it. Unless you're Angelina Jolie. Good point. Okay. Aw, man. All right. Decree the leak, not the trashing of a long time. It's Senate. Can you send me it? Because I'm not sure what I'm looking for. That's true. It also depends on age. You're right about that. I don't see Okie Dokie's comment. I see Remy's comment. I don't see Okie Dokie comment. Oh. One man's 5-second orgasm and one woman's 20 year shit. I'm 50 and I still depend on my mom. Nearly 500,000 children in foster care at any given time. Where are those homes? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All said she wouldn't undo Roe v. Wade, and here we are. Exactly what happens when they start to struggle. Remy, where is that? Yeah, if someone could show me where it is, I'd be happy to read it. But I can't sit here and look through it. So someone tell me where it is. Two of the moms I work with are a different race than Sarah, stop! You sound so silly. Of course there are white people that adopt black children. I mean, of course there are. And there's black families that adopt white children. But there are also a huge, staggering number of black children in foster care because they're not wanted by white families. And this is fact. This is not me making it up. This is fact. Stop giving me, oh, I'm not racist because I have a black friend. I mean, that's what you sound like. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me that you're not racist because you got a black friend. That doesn't make you not racist. Just because you find an exception doesn't make it majority. Majority is the white family with the mom and dad that is looking to adopt does not want a black child. That's fact. You disagree with what? Partial birth abortions, how about after sex, the women take the morning after pill? Okay, here we go. Thank you. All right. The ACA also prohibits annual limits and limits annual cost-sharing obligations on such benefits. State Medicaid plans must provide coverage for pregnancy-related services, including but not limited to prenatal care, delivery, and postpartum care, as well as services for other conditions that might complicate the pregnancy. State Medicaid plans are also prohibited from imposing deductions, cost sharing, or similar charges for pregnancy-related services for pregnant women. Since COSI, all 50 states and the DOC have enacted such laws. Children's Bureau, HHS, infant safe haven laws, adoption emergent experiences of men and women, and demand for children to adopt by women 18 to 44 years of age in the U.S. Nearly 1 million women were seeking to adopt in 2002. They were in demand for a child, whereas the domestic supply of infants relinquished at birth or within the first month of life. What?
Working on that.
How'd that happen?
Something went wrong. Please try again.
That's my phone. I'm like, what the fuck? Nearly 1 million women, whereas the domestic supply of infants relinquished at birth or within the first month of life and available to be adopted, had become virtually non-existent. I don't understand. In states, I don't see where that comment is. Stop defending baby killers? Okay, Jimbo. Bye. Have a good day. Yeah, but that doesn't mean white. There's plenty of babies to adopt. Plenty. They're blocked already. They're gone. Sarah, I will never say it never happens. Ever. That's not what I said. I don't use absolutes. I use majority all the time. If you haven't learned that about me by now, then you never will. I never use absolutes. Ever. Every single thing that I say is majority. In states where abortion is already restricted, most of the women who get abortions are minorities. Let me repeat that. In states where abortion is already restricted, most of the women who get abortions are minorities. I will say that one more time. In states where abortion is already restricted, most of the women who get abortions are minorities. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Think about it. The baby is born with an illness, a birth defect, they toss it. Domestic means limiting adoptions and the white privileged class who want white children. Yeah, they want to force us to give birth for them. Millions of babies are being saved. Okay, you keep that view. Sarah, I didn't say you were racist. I was using that as an example. The overturning of Roe could lead to the foster care system being overwhelmed with babies, and foster care isn't a place to care and raise a child. If conservatives cared about human rights, the rights of women, and the rights of children, they would abandon... Shut up! Here's a man's point of view, which I agree with. There's your dogs, Alma. Hey! Quiet! If conservatives cared about human rights, the rights of women, and the rights of children, they would abandon this ideological jihad that is the exact opposite of respecting personal liberties and caring for children. Dane, let the dogs out! Overturning Roe will be a disaster for the nation, and the Supreme Court will be responsible for the damage caused to women and children. Amen. And that's from a guy. Jason Easley, my new friend. So now it's the white family's fault that there are more black children in foster care. People need to take responsibility. Did I say that, Johnny? I never said that. That's not what I said. That's going a totally right field, left field, whatever field, baseball field, basketball field. That's not what I said. Overturn Roe v. Wade. Don't forget to spay and neuter your pets. Yeah, that's a good point, Duckin. They can't even control the pet population, but they're going to control the human population? Okay. Okay. Sure you will. Sure you will. All right. It's time I do this. You're welcome, Remy. Oh, the website's complete. You guys want to see it? It's not open yet. I got to call insurance and transfer it over. But you guys want to see the website? It's fixed. It's done. It's completed. Finite. I'll let you guys be the first to see it since you stuck it out with me for like 2 hours. But it's not open yet. I can't open it till I get my insurance over. Hang on. Hold on. Well. All right. You ready? Hold on. All right. So you see the opening? I'm going to move slow. Hold up. Thank you, Remy. I have been working my ass off on this. Whoop. Crystals that I use are all there. Now the best part. So let's say I want to buy, that one doesn't have as many choices. All right, we'll do this one. So you see 4 ounce, 23, 25, 8 ounce, 9 ounce. So whichever one you pick. Now, a lot of people have asked me why a 12 ounce is 25, why the 12 ounce is cheaper than the 9 ounce, because it doesn't come with a top and it's in a glass. It's a clear glass. So you pick whichever one you want. Let's say you wanted a 12 ounce green. If you want to learn more about it, you just come down here and you'll see a full description. Numerology will show you how numerology plays into it. Here you'll learn about the wax and wicks. Here you learn about the crystals, the dimensions of each vessel, and my personal guarantee. Some of them I'm going to put on sale. When I do the grand reopening, just so you know, when I do a grand reopening, I'm going to have 25% off everything. And I think that's it. Oh, so if you want a collection, it'll show you all candles in that collection. I will add stuff to this all the time. I still have scents I didn't put up, but I have to get this going. You'll see everything has a candle front because it just keeps it all together. How do you do subscriptions? You just go ahead. Let's say you wanted the luxury one. Where's the small one? I have a small one too. So let's say the luxury box melt. You just click on it. You can do it one of two ways. You can do it this way and then order it from here. Oh, by the way, all subscriptions are free shipping. And you just go ahead and add to cart and it'll give you the free shipping. You don't have to worry about any of that. And then you can also do it if you go to VIP boxes and let's say you want to order the basic one, you just click order now. It goes right to it. Alma, you have no idea how hard the work was. And that's it. I think I got rid of all the glitches. I think we're good to go. Like I said, I just got to transfer everything over. I make everything. I just put 20 for everything, but I make everything. I can make anything. Candles and crystals. And that's it. And you guys will see Fluffer in a moment. I made Fluffer the boss. Dun, dun, dun. Why isn't it changing? Come on. Change. Damn it. I know. Fluff is on here too. Or maybe it only changes once. I don't know. I did work my ass off. We're talking 15 hours a day for literally almost a month. It's been a long journey. Very long journey. But we're here. And we're done. Woohoo! And like I said, I just got to go ahead and transfer my insurance and all that stuff. Yeah, that's an old picture. Wait, thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, Fluffer is the CEO. Maybe it'll work now. Come on, change. I don't know why it's not changing. I can't reload it. Well, I guess I can. Maybe it'll change now. But Fluffer comes up. I have all that on the bottom, Mama. I don't know why it's not working. Oh. There's Fluffer. The boss man. It's supposed to change automatically, though. And that's it. Yeah, no, that's part of the website. Everyone's going to have to do it. Doesn't he look cute there? He's a boss. 'Cause he is cute, Lindsay. No, the cookie thing is, that's my website. You guys are going to get that too. You just have to hit accept. But because it's in preview mode. And that's it. Website's done. Like I said, you want any candle? You just pick it. Now, some of these, if I really wanted to, I could redo some of these pictures. I'm not doing it. I'm like, you know what? I can't do anymore. I'll be here day and night trying to make it absolutely perfect. Not happening. Yes. And that's it. And we are going live. And I'm going to put it live. And that's it. So all I have to do is hit accept. I've talked about transferring the reward funds to the court in the Wells case. No. The U.S. abortion rate continues to drop. Once again, state abortion restrictions are not the main driver. All right. All right. So I am done. I'm out. I will see you guys later. I got to take Dayton somewhere. I got to take a shower. I got to get my nails done. And and now that I showed her the password to this, I got to change it. So with that said, love you guys. See you later. Thank you for listening to my rant. And